I'm very pleased to bring you this course on understanding Merkaba and Vortex mechanics. And in this part 2, we will be dealing with the nature of what I've called the power generator. The science of Merkaba mechanics is as ancient as the Earth itself. This science has been hidden from us, because if we knew about it and understood it, it would revolutionize our world and change it forever, and it will become apparent why later in this course. Merkaba mechanics, or forms of it, are still taught by the upper echelons of the mystery schools, satanic schools, and the Freemasons. The secrets of Merkaba mechanics have been guarded and protected by the fallen ones, because it is the mechanism by which they hold human consciousness captive. When the second moon that was covered in part 1 of this course collided with Earth, it did a number of things. Firstly, it misaligned Earth's magnetic polarity with its rotational polarity, thus rendering Earth's Merkaba field distorted and weakened. This meant and means that Earth was deprived of the benefits of the Merkaba field. Earth's progression through its soul evolution path was disrupted. Until Earth's Merkaba field is restored, it will be unable to draw in higher frequency energies and will therefore be disconnected from the universal energy field. Let's start off by understanding what a Merkaba field is, what it does, and what its purpose is. A Merkaba field can be described by its ability to organize and generate energy, its ability to create a protective energy force field around itself, and its ability to be the vehicle that carries its sentient matter being through space and time. It is also the viewing point from which we create and experience our reality. First off, how does a Merkaba field generate power? That is where the understanding of vortex mechanics comes into play. We can see and experience many natural earth phenomena that generate and collect vast amounts of expendable energy. These include, but are not limited to, electric storms, hurricanes, typhoons, and tornadoes. All of these phenomena are created by power differentials, that is, differences in temperature, atmospheric pressure, spin speed, geometry, etc. This video explains these natural weather phenomena.
In this video, we're going to learn about tropical cyclones. The first thing you need to understand is that tropical cyclones originate over oceans in tropical areas and coastal regions. If you all know, this is the tropical region. It is the region of the Earth near to the equator and between the Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere and the Tropic of Capricorn in the southern hemisphere. Tropical cyclones are known by different names depending on the region. In the Indian Ocean, they are known by simply cyclones. If you go to the Western Pacific side or near the South China Sea, it is called as typhoons. Likewise, near Western Australia, it is known by willy willies. All these are different names refer to the same type of storm. You must be knowing this, that tropical region receives the most solar radiation per area. And the reason behind that is due to the incoming solar radiation that are direct and vertical at the tropical region. And as you move towards the polar region, the angle of the sun rays are not vertical, they are slanting rays. Vertical rays of sunlight are more effective in producing light and heat than slanting rays, and that's why the tropical region is warm. Now that you have understood the main things about the tropical region, let's understand about wind movement. Wind movement is determined by low pressure and high pressure systems. It is the differences in atmospheric pressure that creates pressure gradient and makes the wind move. And wind always blow from the areas of high pressure to low pressure areas. Now the next question is, what causes low pressure and high pressure? Low pressure occurs when air is warm, either from being over a warm land or ocean surface. That means low pressure occurs at a place which is warm. And how does a place become warm? Because of the incoming heat from the sun. That is why tropical region is a perfect place where low pressure occurs. Similarly, high pressure occurs when air is cool, either from being over a cool land or ocean surface. That is why in the polar region, that is your north and south pole, it is a high pressure zone. And always remember, winds blow from the areas of high pressure to low pressure areas. While all of this happens, there is another important phenomena which comes into the picture. It's called Coriolis force. Due to the rotation of the earth rotates towards the east, and that's why the sun, moon, planets and stars all rise in the east and go towards the west. Anyways, due to the rotation of the earth, there is a force that is generated, and it acts perpendicular to the direction of motion and to the axis of rotation. In simple terms, when the earth is spinning in its axis from west to east, and we also know that earth is a sphere and it is much wider in the middle. As a result, the speed of the surface of the earth at the equator is much faster than the speed at the poles. So if anything has to come straight from the poles towards the equator, it gets deflected to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. And this force that we are talking about is called Coriolis force. It causes fluids like water and air to curve as they travel across or above the Earth's surface. Due to Coriolis force, the air in the northern hemisphere gets deflected to the right side. Now you might think, no, that is going towards the left side. But then I said the air is going to curve to the right side in the northern hemisphere. To clear your confusion, you have to actually see it from the direction in which the wind is moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this picture and now put yourself in the path of the wind. Now you will be able to see that the air in the northern hemisphere curves to the right while moving from high pressure to the low pressure area. Similarly, in the southern hemisphere, the air is deflected to the left side while moving from high pressure to low pressure area. In this case, we don't have to rotate the picture. Now that you have understood why the air moves to the left and right due to Coriolis force, just remember this point, that it is because of this reason there are certain pressure belts all over the Earth's surface. You must be familiar with this picture which shows global wind circulation pattern. You can see that at different latitudes there are different pressure belts. Their existence is simply due to the movement of air to the left and right due to Coriolis force. I hope so far you have understood the general movement of air. Now let's understand how does air turns into a storm and what causes the spinning of a cyclone. When you look at the movement of a cyclone, at the center of every cyclone or hurricane, you will find an area of low pressure, which attracts the cool air. Since we know that air moves from high pressure area to low pressure area, that means the outer area of a cyclone consists of cool air coming from high pressure area, which surrounds the central low pressure area. This region is called the eye of the storm or center of the storm. The low pressure region is a warm region where the air is warm, which expands and then rises. The cool air from high pressure zone rushes in to fill the void left by the rising warm air. This air warms and becomes moist as well, allowing it to rise. Then more cool air rushes in to fill the void. The warm, moist air cools as it rises higher into the atmosphere because temperature drops with increasing altitude. That is also how clouds are formed. Now this process continues again and again. As a result, you will see an eye-like figure at the center of the storm. Now comes the Coriolis effect. In the northern hemisphere, the cool air rushing towards the center of the storm is deflected slightly to the right. But keep in mind, the cool air keeps getting attracted towards the center because that's where the warm low pressure zone is. While moving towards the center, the cool air keeps getting deflected. Now this creates a spin in a counterclockwise direction. In the southern hemisphere, the Coriolis effect moves air to the left, opposite to what happens in the northern hemisphere. As a result, the spinning of the cyclone is in a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. Tropical cyclones are intense, and in the beginning we have read that it occurs over the ocean surface and coastal region because there is a continuous supply of moisture from the ocean or sea. When it reaches the land, the moisture supply is cut off and the storm dissipates. When the cyclone crosses the coast, because after that the landmass starts, so the place where tropical cyclone crosses the coast is called the landfall of the cyclone, meaning the power of the cyclone naturally decreases because the supply of moisture is cut off. The average diameter of a circulating tropical cyclone can vary between 150 and 250 kilometers. However, the diameter of the storm over the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, and Indian Ocean is between 600 to 1200 kilometers. And these cyclones move slowly at a speed of about 300 to 500 kilometers per day. So far we have seen the top view of a tropical cyclone, and this is what it looks vertically. This is the eye of the storm. Around the eye is the eye wall. If you look at the height of the cyclone, the circulation of the tropical cyclone extends up to the troposphere. That is around 15,000 to 18,000 meters. When warm moist air rises up in the atmosphere, after a certain height it starts cooling because the temperature drops with increasing altitude. As the air cools, it becomes denser and moves towards the ground. This is called subsiding warm air. And this is what intensifies the storm by increasing the diameter of the storm. And as the diameter increases, the spiral rain bands expands and pushes the rain clouds into the outer region. Tropical cyclones occur at the time of maximum solar radiation during the summer and autumn season, that is around July to October time in the northern hemisphere, and December to March time in the southern hemisphere. With this, I hope you have now understood the complete anatomy of a tropical cyclone. If you still find it a little confusing, I recommend that you go back and watch the video again, especially the part where I said that the air in the northern hemisphere curves to the right when moving from high pressure to low pressure area, and in the southern hemisphere it curves to the left. Many people find that concept a little confusing, so watch it again. If you understand the clockwise and anti-clockwise movement of the air, then you will understand everything. Anyways, I hope you found this video informative. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for
Let's examine what the properties of a natural organic energy generation system are. Firstly, there are the natural organic flows of energy caused by differentiation. Secondly, these differential flows of energy cause vortices. Human sciences haven't pursued this because if we understood and propagated this knowledge and understanding, we would be able to create free energy and free energy devices that would not suit the agenda of the fallen ones who want to keep us as slaves to their unnatural, inorganic, kinetic energy that serves two purposes: enslavement of humanity and destruction of the environment. So it is important to understand natural organic flows of energy caused by differentiation and how these differential flows of energy cause vortices. Applying these principles of differentiation and vortices, let me explain how the Merkaba works. The Merkaba is a natural organic energy generator and works pretty much like inclement weather systems on our planet that generate an enormous amount of energy, sometimes with devastating effect. The symbol of the Merkaba in ancient writings and drawings is the Star of David. As is their strategy, this symbol has been displayed in plain sight all over the world and is a symbol on the flag of Israel. It represents perfectly the natural and organic energy flows that we see in nature, but also the Merkaba field, the energy generation system of the soul. This symbol is shown as a two-dimensional, unanimated representation of the Merkaba. But if we understood the dynamic principles of natural organic energy generation and properly animate the symbol, it is a natural organic generator. There's been long speculation over the years about what the purpose of the pyramids are. Traditionally, the explanation has been that the pyramids were a sacred burial chamber for deceased royalty. That is far from the truth. Here is some speculative evidence about the pyramids. My higher self, Izmir, confirmed to me that the pyramids were a form of energy generation on Earth up until about 13,000 years ago. However, this course is about Merkaba fields, so in the next part of this course we will focus more on the Merkaba fields and how they work. Just know that Merkaba fields are a universal phenomenon, as are pyramids. So let's get into the video about the pyramids.
Mainstream historians will tell you that the Great Pyramid of Giza was a glorified tomb for the Egyptian pharaohs. The only monument left of the original 7 wonders of the world, this structure was created with impeccable mathematical precision and is a unique, mysterious feat of construction and of engineering. There's only one problem. The Great Pyramid has none of the characteristics of tombs, including extravagant artifacts, ornate wall art, sealed entrances, elaborate coffins, or even mummies themselves. It was, however, built with unique materials, the same materials that are used today for electrical conductivity. These facts are leading more and more historians to believe the pyramids may have had a far more useful purpose. The Pyramid of Giza was not at all a tomb, but a power plant, generating and transmitting electricity to the civilization surrounding it. Impossible? Join the universe inside you for a closer look. To start, it's important to comprehend the tremendous effort that went into creating these monuments. The pyramids of Giza are among no less than 118 of these structures in Egypt alone, and that doesn't even include those pyramids in other parts of the world. Given our current understanding of how early civilizations built their monuments, it would have taken no less than 20 years to build these so-called tombs, and that's if no less than 20,000 workers worked daily. To this day, historians still can't prove exactly how or when they were built. This leads us to ask, what resting place for the dead could possibly be so important that it would warrant such phenomenal effort, time, and precise engineering? Even without knowing that they have nothing in common with regular tombs, you only need to stand before them to realize that's a lot of work for a cadaver. Naturally, we make conclusions based on the assumption that ancient civilizations were more primitive than us. But what if intellectual evolution isn't always linear? Can advanced technology be lost and rediscovered centuries later? Is it possible that an ancient culture had knowledge of and used electrical power? To know for sure, let's look at another case where technology of power generation appears to have been used and then forgotten. We know Edison and Tesla brought electricity into common use moving into the 20th century. Yet, in Iraq in 1934, 3 artifacts were found together: a ceramic pot, a tube of copper, and a rod of iron which, when combined with a liquid acid, can be used to create chemical reactions that produce an electrical charge. Known as the Baghdad or Parthian battery, these materials date back 2,000 years. 10 years after their discovery, someone using grape juice with similar materials successfully generated a few volts of electricity. This process has since been demonstrated on the Discovery Channel's program Mythbusters, where lemon juice activated the electrochemical reaction between the copper and the iron, producing 4 volts of electricity. Nowadays, you can simply search online to find instructions on how to create your own battery using these chemical principles. But historians have long assumed that thousands of years ago there was no knowledge of this technology, that this archaeological find is mere coincidence, even though we've long marveled over artifacts with intricate gold plating, which requires electricity to be created. Quite simply, energy generation happens as a result of simple chemical properties and can be done by anyone with 4 basic materials. So, here are some important facts about the structure and the materials of the pyramid. For starters, it contains angled tunnels which lead not only into the pyramid but deep underground, to areas claimed still to be unexplored. What tomb needs a shaft directed into the earth? We also know that centuries ago there were enormous swivel doors that weighed no less than 20 tons, but miraculously it was so well engineered it could be moved to enter with a push of a hand. Since no Egyptian tomb has ever been found to be deliberately accessible, what was their interest in continuing to visit the mummies, or could such a door have served the purpose of perhaps containing and insulating the space inside? Though you'd almost never know it, the Great Pyramids of Giza were once covered in white polished limestone, referred to as casing stones. The cuts made in this reflective stone were angled perfectly, so it would have a smooth, flat appearance. This would have made the giant structures brightly reflect the light of the sun like a mirror. It also would have made perfect insulation inside the structure. A large earthquake in 1303 disrupted the casing stones, and they were removed to use on other structures. Today, all that remains is the inner core of the pyramid. The image of the incredible amount of light that would have reflected from the monument raises curiosity, as does the reason for the insulation. Was there a desire to draw attention to their dead? To keep mummies warm or cool, or perhaps something else? Next, the material, dolomite, was used on the inner surfaces. Dolomite is known to increase electrical conductivity directly relative to the amount of pressure on it. High pressure creates more electrical current. Next, lining the passageways and underground tunnels of the pyramids is granite, which is slightly radioactive. Granite contains high amounts of quartz crystal with metal, and it's a well-known conductor of piezoelectricity. Piezoelectricity occurs as a result of stress or pressure on the quartz, as demonstrated by the wristwatches, which can be charged simply by rapidly shaking them. This granite actually ionizes the air inside the pyramid, creating a chemical reaction which, again, increases the conductivity of electricity. When such electrons are given the chance to bypass sections of rock via metal wire, quite large currents can flow. Another important material used to construct them is the mysterious mortar, 500,000 tons of it, which holds the giant stones in place. Though it's been analyzed many times, modern technology has yet to exactly recreate this gypsum, which comes from sediment. This gypsum can withstand tremendous pressure and astoundingly is even stronger than the stones themselves. Clearly, it's contributed to keeping the monument intact for thousands of years. But could there be another reason why they used a material which could withstand such high pressure? So, limestone, dolomite, granite, supposedly constructed for a tomb, are, in fact, analogous to the exact materials we use to make electrical wires. They also share a relationship with pressure, which increases their electroconductivity. Just northwest of the Great Pyramid is the Serapeum. Here there are 20 huge granite boxes, each weighing 100 tons. Classic Egyptologists say these are coffins. Yet, the granite here came from 500 miles away, and each box is so large and so heavy that there's no possible way it could fit through the existing tunnels and entrances. These supposed sarcophagi were therefore somehow built into the structure with such precision they are within a 10,000th of an inch of being perfectly flat. In the meantime, any electrical engineer will explain that a container serving as an energy capacitor or battery must be made entirely of the same substance, so there's no interruption in the magnetic field. Could these boxes be just that? If so, there's a centuries-old granite sarcophagus on display in an Egyptian museum that's thought to be unfinished. Unlike those in the pyramids, this one's cracked, suggesting that perhaps it wasn't unfinished, but simply abandoned, because the crack which occurred would have interrupted the magnetic field, permitting it from successfully serving its purpose. So there is clear evidence to support the possibility of an electrical use. Since these supposed sarcophagi are clearly way too large for a human being, the accepted theory is that they were, yes, believe this, bull coffins for the pharaoh's prized bulls. Makes you wonder who came up with the bull coffin theory. To add to the mystery, in 1993, a mysterious and inaccessible room was discovered after remaining hidden for thousands of years. Appearing to have deliberately been concealed by the structure's engineers, the room came to be called the Queen's Chamber and was finally explored in 2011 with a small remote camera to reveal a long-lost mummy? Hardly. It contained carefully crafted copper wire, and more importantly, there were instructions painted as symbols onto the floor, which appeared to show a clear wiring diagram. Look at any battery, from those used in large power plants to the smallest pellet batteries in wristwatches, and you'll see that they require a metal, such as copper, to create the chemical reaction known as potential difference. You can run an electric current through copper wire, and the coil will produce a short-range magnetic field. Add a second coil, and the power is transferred from one coil to the other. A windowless room with copper wirings could create a higher potential on one wall, which transfers energy to the lower potential on the other wall, consequentially releasing electromagnetic energy into the confined space of the so-called Queen's Chamber. Sadly, these wires have since disappeared entirely, and mainstream Egyptologists claim there's no functionality whatsoever to this room, as they also claim there's no functionality of anything in this structure beyond the ways it serves as a tomb. Good place to note, however, that the foremost Egyptologist, Zahi Hawass, was indicted for theft of Egyptian antiquities. It could still be argued that the electrical materials used to construct the Great Pyramid are simply coincidental, because an energy generator still requires a catalyst from another source. Perhaps then this explains why the pyramids are geographically located over a powerful natural generator, underground rivers and aquifers. Physioelectricity could be harnessed from the power of the current as the water flows, and it has been proven that thousands of years ago the Nile River passed directly by where the structures now stand. Of course, this brings in a debate about the age of the pyramids themselves, along with the weathering on the nearby Sphinx, indicating that the monuments are actually double the age they're currently assumed to be. Perhaps that would explain why there's no mention of the pyramids or their creation in any of the Egyptian writings. So if water was a source of power, it would have traveled up the limestone based on the principle of capillary action, which happens when a small area of a substance that gets wet absorbs into the entire area of that substance. So water flowing near or underneath the pyramid could have been absorbed as it passed over the limestone, even traveling upward to the top of the structure. The quartz in the tunnels of the pyramids would subject to the stress or vibration, creating piezoelectricity. The high force, speed of the rising water, and the pressure would be analogous to filling a syringe, generating electromagnetic energy within the structure by the materials within it, and conducting it upwards to the now missing capstone. But why? The geographical location of the pyramid may give us some clues. It is located exactly at a point which magnifies the electromagnetic forces on the planet, where telluric currents are at their strongest. There's an electromagnetic field at the bottom of the pyramid, which would rise to the upper layers with these chemical reactions. We don't know for sure what capped the pyramid, but there is speculation that it may have been gold, explaining, of course, why it's long since been missing. If it were gold, this could have created a conductive path for energy to be directed upwards, high into the ionosphere. If superconductive materials were used to create this monument for energy, then the potential for something even more amazing might have been possible. Wireless electricity. Sound far-fetched? One bold and extraordinary man swore this was possible, and he may have showed us how. We know of Nikola Tesla as the solitary genius responsible for the electric engine, radio, laser, radar, and for creating a tremendous competitive spirit in Thomas Edison. We know Tesla sought above all to serve mankind. In fact, despite his extraordinary contributions, he's scarcely known or credited for his genius. At the 1893 World's Fair, Tesla transmitted electricity naturally to a light bulb he held in his hands, and he created the Tesla coil, which is used more today for show than for the function it was intended to serve. Most importantly, we know that Tesla claimed adamantly that he had perfected the method of harnessing and transmitting free wireless energy using the electromagnetic nature of the planet. In a patent Tesla filed in September of 1897, he claimed that at 30,000 feet altitude, there's a stratum of rarefied air that would conduct electric currents at high voltages. In this proposed system was a transmitter which would transmit millions of volts into the atmosphere. Then he had something receive the electricity and reduce the voltage to a convenient potential to be used by consumers. In an experiment the last week of July in 1903, nearby residents claimed to have witnessed Tesla successfully conduct his experiment at the Wardensife Tower, while Tesla himself, sharing his new method of conductivity, said that it lit up the night sky as if it were a giant fluorescent tube. It's even been said that he successfully wirelessly transmitted pictures and sounds. Though all of his work has been mercilessly destroyed, this cannot be proven. Sadly, Tesla's technology was confiscated shortly after his death. He died in poverty, and the U.S. government destroyed his tower, claiming it was being used by German spies. Had Tesla succeeded in his mission, the distribution of power on this planet would have been very different today. Compare Tesla's technology to the pyramids, the location, height, and electromagnetic materials. We've seen induction between copper wires work for short distances. For a long-distance transfer, the same principle can be applied when acoustic energy is converted to kinetic energy, and the frequencies match. The way an opera singer can shatter a glass when the sound wave he is singing matches the resonant frequency of the glass. So if there's a magnetically oscillating current and you create a second possessing the same frequency, the wireless transmission can pass through solid materials and through long distances. the frequency which would have been released from the pyramid would have to have been matched in the surrounding area. Perhaps this would explain the obelisks, the tall monuments which could be acting as receivers, particularly if there's a quartz stone at the top of them. This would also explain the ancient carvings in Egypt, which so clearly indicate light sources it's boggling to think anyone would even argue it. In the Hathor Temple, the Dendera light is one such image. It perfectly resembles modern electrical technology, showing a wire inside of a bulb-like area and a box which appears to be a receiver. Across from this carving is a similar image, but the system appears to be falling into the hands of a reptilian-looking being, as though it's a warning of the potential to abuse this technology. Mainstream historians scoff and make more primitive conclusions, but still, the pyramids show no sign of soot from flame torches. Instead, there are multiple carvings which show these antenna-like objects that appear to be a transmitter, near another object shaped like the famous symbol, the Ankh, which appears to be the receiver. Given all this, it seems so much more believable that the Great Pyramid functioned using the same principles and conditions as Tesla sought to demonstrate, that they conducted and directed electromagnetic energy into the ionosphere, where it generated and transmitted electricity wirelessly to receivers within the civilization. We've long believed that the pyramids were just tombs, but this theory raises more questions than it answers. Why do they have nothing in common with other tombs? Why the unique construction materials made to build it, including the very materials required for conducting power? Why the oversized granite boxes proven to have never contained any mummies, or the ones that are clearly too large for humans? Why the alignment with the North Pole, the 20-ton swivel doors, intricate tunnels and chambers, shafts, and areas still yet to be discovered? Why is there no soot from fire torches anywhere inside the structure? And why do the tunnels protrude deep into the earth? These mysteries still elude our understanding, but more and more people are accepting the possibility that the Great Pyramid of Giza had a more important function than we understand. We know there is a heightened electromagnetic measurement around the pyramid that's equivalent to that made in an electrical storm. We also know that if you look at them from space, you can see that they're actually 8-sided, not 4-sided, and that there are strange heat spots observable only with special equipment. They have unique electric materials, including copper, and a design that suggests high pressure and water power. They have a powerful magnetic structure and placement over the telluric currents. They're aligned with the stars, and the unique art of the area shows clear depictions of wired light sources. All these things suggest there's a lot more to this story than we've been told. All these circumstances make the likelihood high that the pyramid was created to be a compact energy generator and a broadcasting system that transmitted electricity wirelessly. The implications for this understanding of electrical power by an ancient culture is huge. It would rewrite history as we know it. Do you think that free energy could be transmitted wirelessly around the world? And whether or not you do believe that, do you think that if it really could do that, we would actually know about it? Thank you for watching, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. If you're new,
This is the end of part 2, and thanks for watching. We'll get into part 3, which is going to be very exciting to learn about in the third part of this course. Many thanks for watching.